Sakshi, as we've been pointing out, US trade negotiators have arrived in Delhi. The talks are going to be crucial, considering the bonhomie that we saw in the recent past between the two countries after they were trading barbs at each other as far as the tariffs are concerned. But take us through what can be expected and what are going to be the focus areas as far as these talks go.
Absolutely, the spotlight really and all eyes really on these trade talks. Remember, these closed door trade talks and negotiations, like you mentioned, between the US's top trade negotiator as well as India's counterpart, is all going to focus on enhancing bilateral ties. In fact, the aim really is to stretch the bilateral trade and double it really to $500 billion by 2030 is what NDTV is learning at the moment. Remember, these are closed door negotiations, and these, if successful, will then pave way for the formal 6th round of negotiations. So really, NDTV has been tracking all the details of the trade talks. Remember, earlier we were bringing you the barriers really, like agriculture and so on, being a red line for India. And now when trade talks are taking place, we are bringing you minute by minute updates on really what is going to be focused on. And remember, what is really, really interesting to learn here is that supply chain integration is going to be critical as well going forward. Remember, when trade deals take place, of course, what we're looking at, jobs, investment, manufacturing, we're looking at a big boost to all of this. And supply chain integration really is critical, because remember, this whole tariff tiff, remember, analysts have been telling NDTV and experts alike that, look, a tariff tiff then raises alarms over, supply chains, distorted pricing, all of those things really that have been in the spotlight. And today, all these areas really are going to be addressed in the backdoor negotiations is what we're learning at the moment. And remember, this will pave way for the formal round of talks going forward.
All right, we'll also go across to Rishabh. Thank you, Sakshi, for those details. Rishabh, how significant is this trade deal in the backdrop of heavy tariffs imposed by the US on India? And of course, whatever we saw post that. I mean, are there any particular industries in India that are particularly hopeful or perhaps worried?
Right, so I'm right outside the Vanija Bhavan, which is the Commerce Ministry office, where the negotiations are set to resume between India and the US. Now, this particular round in itself is very, very crucial because it marks the formal continuation of talks between India and the US. Both of them, there were some barbs exchanged, like you said, over the past couple of months or so. In-person negotiations were stalled because of that, because of these heightened tariff tensions that had come in. 50% tariffs, the most that the US could actually impose on any other country except for Brazil, which was also at 50%. So India and Brazil were the top two countries in terms of the tariffs that were being levied. So now we're finally seeing some sort of a thaw in the India-US relationship. You have these ties and these talks that are resuming. These are expected to be a day-long talks with the US Chief Negotiator Brendan Lynch already at Vanija Bhavan. That is what we're picking up. What we're also seeing is the fact that India is expected to stick to its red lines in agriculture and dairy. Those, like the Prime Minister also said, that all FTAs, all trade deals will be signed only keeping in the interest of farmers, livestock holders, fishermen, as well as MSMEs. So those are the 4 sectors of society that the government really wants to protect when it comes to free trade agreements. Also, what will be keen to be tracked is the sort of impetus that the US will be putting on India's purchases of Russian oil and defense equipment. Remember, the additional 25% tariffs were because of India's involvement with Russia and also India's involvement in the BRICS grouping. So that will be something that needs to be keenly tracked throughout the day.
All right, Rishabh, if I could ask you, what is the perception among the wider public? You said this is continuation of talks and there is a lot of hope pinned on these talks as well. Do people expect a trade deal soon, or is there skepticism still?
So this particular round is not viewed as the formal 6th round. Rather, this is a bridge sort of a round that is taking place right now. So this So there might not be any sort of a formal conclusion at the end of today's particular talks, but the overall sentiment is the fact that, and both political leaderships on both sides of the ocean, US and India, both have maintained the fact that a fall deadline or the around the November-October mark is when the first tranche of the bilateral trade agreement can be expected. And this is a target that was set by Prime Minister Modi as well as President Trump bilaterally. This is a joint statement that came out in February this year. So that deadline remains. The October-November fall deadline, that remains. So that continues to be the final sort of stretch where we'll see the talks picking up pace. But from today's talks, no such formal conclusion or statement expected.
All right, so no formal conclusion today certainly, but some sort of hope as far as India is concerned in these ongoing trade deals. But thank you, Rishabh, as well as Sakshi, for getting us all of those important details.